Hi, Galia on video.
Hello,
Right.
John-Marc. How are you? I'm so happy to have you with me today with this episode where we're going to be discovering new topics and new insights. I'm always focused on retail, on consumer behavior in a retail setup, and I value a lot themes and conversations related to experiences. And in this captivating episode, we'll be investigating into the realm of spatial design and its profound impact on shaping our perceptions and experiences. John-Marc Ward, welcome. You're a spatial experience designer, and you will share with us your insights on how to craft spaces that go beyond aesthetics and that touch the very essence of human engagement. I'm so happy to have you with me. We're finally doing this episode. John-Marc, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you come to that point of working on spatial experiences?
No problem, Galia. So it's nice to be connected with you finally. I know we were supposed
Yeah,
to do this prior to this time. Yeah. So thank you very much for having me on here.
pleasure.
Right. So my name is John-Marc Ward. I am the creative director for a UK-based company by the name of Factor HX. It's no secret that HX in the name stands for human experience because that's what I'm pretty much known for. Prior to getting into spatial design, right, or interior architecture and design, I worked for a number of years as a service designer, um, particularly for some big retail brands within the food and beverage industry, right? I've also worked for fashion, right? And within a couple other sectors like oil and gas and whatnot. I do have vast knowledge and experience as a service designer, right? However, my quest to become more artistic and to start doing new stuff where I'm going to put my artistic abilities to use and whatnot, I stumbled upon interior architecture and design. And I fell in love with architecture. Actually, every day I fall in love with new bits of it, new pieces, because I'm continuously learning. I'm presently a student of the retail design course with De Montfort University
Hmm.
within the UK through the National Design Academy. Yeah. So all of my knowledge in customer experience and service design, I'm now marrying back to spatial design, thinking that I walked away from it and this is going to be something absolutely new. I think all my life experiences has just got me up to this point where everything just came together and came together quite
Exactly.
nicely. Because what we need to understand is that, so okay, so on paper I'm a retail designer. Okay, we're designing specifically for commercial businesses. Yeah, it could
Hmm.
be a hotel, it could be a mall, a store in a mall, a convenience store, a cafe. It really doesn't matter. We're designing businesses. This is very much different. The mindset is very much different from traditional interior architect and designers who would have done design for houses.
Right,
Because now you're not appealing to a specific family or person. You're appealing to the wider audience. Yeah.
right, right.
Whilst whilst ensuring things like salience of the brand. Yeah. So there's a lot of science that goes into it. There's a lot of behavioral science that takes part. That we would collaborate with behavioral science teams for specific projects and whatnot. Um,
So,
sometimes,
so, 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 John, if I might, like, pick up on this beautiful bit of the conversation to kick off with my first, like, question, because you're talking a lot about behaviors, about people, about a different concept into designing. When we talk about these spaces influencing emotions and interactions, how exactly do these physical environments shape the feeling of consumers and their behaviors? And can you continue on sharing some examples of spaces that have a notable impact on people's experiences?
right, no problem. So let's talk about some of those spaces. So There's specific elements within design. Well, first, the overall space. You must have a particular space to do exactly what you want to do in there. And then when you take into consideration the forms and what materials you use for textures and colors and whatnot in there, right? Especially lighting. As I tell a lot of folks, lighting is a language of its own,
Yeah.
right? So when you take into consideration lighting and the materials that is used in there for textures and colors, right? You're able to paint this picture that could either go for or against your brand. So that's why spatial design is so important, because within any sort of commercial setting, your brand is what you have to be consistent with and push throughout the entire experience. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to have a display screen or posters on the wall on every square inch of the wall, but probably the patterns that you select on the furniture in your coffee shop, right? Or the type of wallpaper, or the color of paint that you select would
Mm.
have specific specific how I could put it. It must be aligned with your overall brand to stimulate a specific feeling. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So
The
if it's a
brand
coffee shop and you want it
coherent with
more
the brand.
cozy,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So if it's a coffee shop and you need to be a bit more cozy and you use a bit more of those earth tones, as you could see, a lot of coffee shops they tend to
Mhm.
use browns and whatnot to give you this warm, cozy feeling. Well, it's also aligned with the color of a coffee bean. Yeah.
Right. Mm-mm.
Right. So we would take into consideration the psychology behind color, the psychology behind lighting, because right now we have a major challenge in the industry. You would find something online and it looks a particular way, and when you order it, it's nothing like what you thought it would be. So yeah,
Yes.
you need to take big samples of these materials, a nice size piece of a sample, and go into the space, turn on the actual lighting in there, use open up the windows so that you could get that natural lighting coming into the space, so that
Right.
you could actually see what this would look like in this space, because it could look very much different within your commercial space as opposed to another space like your home. Yeah, right. So there's
Uh,
a lot of factors taken into consideration there with it.
So apart the lighting and textures or material, we're saying that immersive experiences that are a hallmark of this exceptional spatial design has to conform to key design principles. We're going back naturally to design principles and to
Exactly.
thinking about how design could help into transforming space. And what you really highlight on, which is really important because we're living it day by day, is that conceptual design might be very different from the actual design. So here you're inviting retail designers to think the space from a normal or real point of view. We have to approach design from a point of view of the reality in which consumers will be immersed in, right? So, are
Yeah.
there other key design principles that we need to look at, John-Marc? Like lighting is really important. I
Yeah, of
believe
course.
it's a matter of reflection and refraction. We're talking about material, but what other elements should be thought of?
So when we're talking about commercial and like retail in particular, right? Of course, your visual merchandising, you're gonna have to be very strong with your
Right.
visual merchandising, right? And you have to know how to do it. Recently, I found a client who ran into some trouble because the client installed nice screens throughout the entire space, right? However, what they was not taken into consideration is that the lighting that comes from these screens, right,
Wow.
would,
Okay.
yeah, you would have reflections on your products on the shelves, and what
Mhm.
that would do with the products, and what it could actually stimulate, could overstimulate the client because their brand use a lot of red, right? They tend to use a lot of red within their branding. And whilst red is a color that is thought to be quite stimulating, right? It's a bit too stimulating sometimes, right? And it could actually tire out a person and being in this environment with all of this bold red all day, every day. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
it gets you that bit of emotional tiredness and whatnot with it. So what we came in and did was to not really reduce the amount of screens that they had because that was a big investment, right?
Right.
So what I did was to work with the advertising team to switch up what is on the screens. Yeah,
Nice.
right.
Okay.
So we took it from another angle. So we worked alongside the advertising team, the guys who did the bit of ad science, and they're using this, they're using that to put on the screens what would complement what the store had on the shelf or what they would have on the shelves. Yeah.
Nice.
So if you have a particular fall collection and you have these items hanging on your clothes rack in the store, right? You could very well have it being modeled on screens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Galia, you know what I really, really love and what I'm experimenting with these within the past couple months. I love taking the science and arts of live production and merging that into our retail setting. So I want you to imagine with me for a second, right? Let's be dreamers for a second. Imagine you have a store like Next.
Okay.
Yeah, not very much a luxury store, is it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, they have a very, very appealing, nice atmosphere within their environment. Imagine a store like Next on a Saturday, midday, with a lot of clients in the store, right?
Right.
Then all of a sudden, the lights dim a bit, and you hear over your PA system, shoppers, shoppers, right? Report to this lane for our fall collection or our display of our fall collection, right? And in the middle of the store, you have a little bit of a runway, a fashion runway. And in Next for 15 minutes, midday on Saturday, you have models walking out onto this runway to display to you exactly what you're seeing on the racks.
Nice.
Think about that experience. Think about the clothing on the person,
Yeah.
right? Who could possibly have a body type similar to you, somebody you could identify with. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Those are
And
the
I'm
type
in.
of, yeah, that's the type of retail experience I want to see more of within stores. You see, anyone could copy a business model, they could
Yes.
copy a product, they could copy a pricing strategy. What they may not be able to copy as easily as your experience, right? And sometimes the quality of what you're selling, which transcends into the overall experience, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's what I am playing with a lot of these days. So when we talk about immersive doesn't only mean holograms and something on a screen. Yes, it's nice to have these interactive screens throughout your store, right, to find information about a product, right, or to find out if a product is in stock. Yeah, but you could have interactive experiences in other ways. You could have, sorry, in immersive experiences you would be able to have in other ways if you bring together more of a holistic creative approach to it, like you get creatives from different fields and not just the visual merchandisers. You bring in some guys who knows a bit about production and stuff like that to really build an experience within the store. Yeah.
Okay. And then you highlighted something really important with this process of bringing the innovative spatial design to life involves, in your maybe words, a blend of creativity and practicality. I mean, you're always thinking of the space and the consumer and how to create that experience, taking into account how the customer will be also feeling whenever they are exposed or emerged into that space and living that experience, right? Is practicality an element that retailers used or maybe have been forgetting for a long time, are you also able into inputting lots of your insights to retailers who are rethinking their spaces and telling them, okay, design and creativity is a cool thing. However, we should be also practical when designing experiences.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So we have to be well, practicality, right, and functionality is of course most important. That's what we're getting paid to do as spatial designers, right? Um, Practical, yes. Practical, not in the traditional sense,
Mm,
all the time, right? I mean, we all know that there's certain cognitive biases that is used highly within retail design industry in particular, right? For laying out something like a supermarket, for example, right? So when you walk into a supermarket, you want to have your tills in a certain place. You want to have specific products um, within a certain place in the store that the client may have to go through the entire store to get those particular products, right? Well, of course, the psyche behind that is whilst the client is on their way to get those products, which may be products that move off the shelf quite quickly, they're going to pass these array of other products. So you walk
mhm.
into a store to buy something, and then you come out with two or three other stuff that you didn't really go for, but you saw it and you want it anyway. Yeah,
Yes.
right. So pharmacies and supermarkets, they tend to use that type of science, which is all well and good, right? But when you start thinking about stuff from an experiential perspective, right, that is not always lucrative. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's not always lucrative. Remember, the thing about experiences is that you're trying to get a client to come into your space and escape what's going on in their head and what's going on at home and outside. When they come into this space, you try to keep them here because the thought is that once they stay here, they're going to pretty much buy more stuff. Sometimes
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
depends on the retailer, right? You have some retailers like Prada, they don't really want to keep you there very long, right? So it's all about, yeah, let's design the service alongside this luxury service alongside our luxury product, right? To get you in and out our boutiques as probably as quick as possible, right? We do know some brands who are now not allowing you to leave their shops with items that's going to be posted home for you. So their boutiques are more like displays. Yeah.
Mhm.
You do
Mhm.
find that with a lot of the pop-up stores, of which I know you're a professional with. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do really, really love those pop-up stores as well because it does give me the unique ability to be extremely creative and do all sorts of wild stuff within the space that we wouldn't be able to regularly do with a fixed retail space. Yeah,
Mm,
you could
right.
really have a truly immersive environment there because you could think about putting little hologram units and screens there everywhere, anywhere you would want to put it. Yeah. So yeah, so there is a shift within retail, especially luxury retail,
Mm,
in light of those types of pop-up environments, apparently, because they're now fully understanding that what they need to create is an experience and not just a space.
right.
In that experiential way, and it's absolutely working for them from a financial perspective.
And we highlight this sensorial dimension. Well, it comes to my next question. I mean, sensory elements play a crucial role in enhancing the overall experience within a space. How do you approach integrating different sensory stimuli such as visual, sound, textures, and sense to create a harmonious and memorable multi-sensory experience? Because now our discourse has been changing and shifting. We were always about beautiful spaces, then functional products or relevant product and access to product and visual merchandise. I mean, we have moved into or shifted between eras, and every time we're focusing on one element. But today we're talking about holistic experiences and multi-sensory experiences. What say you about that and the role of design?
Right. So that is critical. When you walk into a space, what you see, what you hear, right, what you're able to touch or feel, and what you smell is critical. Yeah. So you would notice that you walk into one of those, and again, let's use luxury as an example. Yeah.
Mm.
So you walk into a luxury retail setting, and there's a particular scent that that store would have. Yeah. So there's a lot of science that goes behind that, and there's actually a team of scientists who that store would have probably worked with and paid a lot of money to develop that scent, right? And then have it trademarked as theirs, right? So that's things that smaller retailers may not consider, but it is
Mm.
something. Yeah.
Mm.
Now, when we're talking about sensory, you don't want to overstimulate a client either, right? So this is where having a segregated selection of stuff, whether you're segregating by seasons or whatnot, are so critical. Yeah, because you don't want to have stuff between two selections or two seasons clashing where you have visuals or sense or whatnot from two or more, three sometimes I've been seeing in some stores sometimes. So you have this you have all of these things just clashing with each other. And that's again where I'm moving to more the pop-up phase, because with a pop-up store, if you were supposed to go in there and pay attention to what's happening, is you would notice that there's not a lot of products on the shelf. Yeah.
Right. Mm.
So with your visual merchandising, from a visual standpoint, you're not going to be flooded with what you
With
see.
merch. Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
not going to have that cognitive
Mm.
overload.
Mm.
Yeah. Right. So you don't want to give the clients 100 things to pick from. Let's give them about five.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking about this maybe sensory overload, as you said, and we
Yeah.
have to reduce noise now and then, and we have to find our balance. Whenever we're in a retail format, maybe we should be thinking of choosing the sensorial elements that would fit the here and the now, and not like overdo it every time.
Well, yes, yes, it has to complement each other. So you really have to be a good curator of
Yes.
those things to like
Mm.
bring everything together, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah.
I had stores in the past, they're using music in the background, and then what they have on the screen also comes with song.
Yes.
You have song coming out of the screen whilst you have
They are
background music.
overlapping. Right. Yes, yes, yes. I
You really, as a client, you're gonna struggle to hear what's happening.
exactly.
So you need
Exactly.
to be a good curator, not just of visual stuff, of the entire, all the elements that make up the entire experience.
Mm.
Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
again, this is where branding and brand strategy is so important, because when you start to design your brand and your brand strategy around a particular product, right? Like Prada, right? For example, right? You would have sat down with that team and they would have curated, okay, so these are the visuals, these are the patterns that you're using alongside with this particular style of photography,
Mm.
right? And with that, of course, you're going to start stimulating a feeling from all of these visuals. So then you have sonic branding coming into play, where they're going to put music and put sound towards those visuals, right? Yeah. And then, of course, if you want to get deeper into it, you start working with your teams that deals with sense and whatnot, and start bringing in, well, no problem. So this is what I want this to smell like, because
Yeah.
this is the persona of this place. It's like if you're creating an individual. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to
Yeah.
convey actually the brand's personality through design and sensorial elements. And you have mentioned earlier an important dimension, which is the technological dimension. Technology has become increasingly intertwined with spatial design, allowing for this new dimension of interaction, like with the screen or in front of it, either by touching or kinetics. How do you balance the integration of technology within a space space while ensuring that it enhances rather than distracts from the overall experience. Because John-Marc, I'm sure you had lots of retailers like asking you like, just let's add this, let's add that.
Yeah,
Technology is
yeah,
the hit today. Like we
right.
are so inclined to do that. How do you say no to your
And
to your
that's
reach?
a challenge when clients are working with me. That is a major challenge when clients
Yes.
are working with me, because when it comes to technology that clients interact with
Mhm,
within any commercial space, right? I'm a
mhm.
minimalist in terms of that, right?
Okay,
Now
explain
there's a
that to
lot.
us. How
So
how
there's a
how
lot of there's a
minimalist
lot
are
of
you?
technology behind the scenes, and it's okay to have technology behind the scenes to help your operation, right? To help your operations. But in light of what clients are interacting with within that commercial setting, whether it's a hotel or it's a convenience store, right? I always opt for a more human experience,
Mm,
right? Because research, and this is something that a lot of people tend to overlook, but your research is critical, right? And my independent research, which I may actually publish through my university, right, within the next couple months, is actually showing me that we live in such a loud environment as is already, being flooded by all of these social channels, and everything that we do for work is all through technology, right?
mm, right.
When we as humans want to escape, when we want to escape to get, our minds clear, and we decide, well, okay, let's go out shopping, or we really need something that we're going to shop for and whatnot, we don't want to be in front of all of these screens. So I'm not saying that you're not going to have them, but let's try and minimize some of those screens within your retail space, within your commercial space, to really give the clients a chance to interact with the actual product,
Mm,
right?
mm,
And to
mm, mm.
and to interact with your customer service team, right? And everything else that would push your brand and ensure brand salience. Yeah. So it's not a matter of let's flood the space with all of these new technology and all of these stuff. It
Mm,
really does not, from my perspective, it does not boost your sales
mm,
within a space, within a retail setting. It may not boost your space, your sales. What it could possibly do sometimes, in light of specific aspects of things like checkout, which is critical, right? Employ you deploy technology there, right, is going to better your overall customer experience. And then what that is going to do is make the checkout process easier. I love Amazon and the Amazon store for that. You just walk out, you pay, right?
mhm.
Like getting a notification in your app, you click that button, it's all paid, but you walk out, you're not going to go to a till, right?
So maybe, I mean, we should be careful when integrating technology because it has to make sense in the overall customer journey. Given that we initially understood the objective behind integrating that technology, I mean, why are we integrating it? Is it to facilitate the customer journey? Is it to inform? Is it to just interact with our consumer? I mean, we have to have that directive beforehand and before integrating that. But uh, John-Marc, could you share an example of a project where there has been an interplay between technology and spatial design, and that has resulted in an innovative, maybe impactful experience? Have you had the chance to work on such projects yet?
Yes, yes, of course, of
And
course.
if you may share like info within reason about the project specifics.
Right. So recently, um, you have a lot of competition online for supermarket stuff, and supermarket stuff being delivered to your home
Right.
and whatnot. Right. Now, because of non-disclosure reasons, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to call the client's name, right?
No,
But let me
just
tell
let's
you
call it
exactly,
client X.
yeah, let me tell you exactly what I did for them,
Yeah.
right? So this individual came to me in tears because she spent a lot of money to develop this artisan grocery store that
Mm,
really sells high-end stuff, like high-end cuts of meat, premium wines, right?
mhm,
And everything that you could think about that would be considered premium on a supermarket shelf, she pretty much had it in that store, right? She's been running for 3 months. She's not been making the money, right? Clients are coming in, they're walking out, yeah. And of course, her pricing was a bit off as well, so that had a lot to do with it, right? So I recommended her to a friend of mine's, but her layout, it was all wrong. She was a bit too, how I could put it, within the interior industry, there's something called cottage core. It's
mm,
like these country home sorts of stuff. So you have this very country home, earthy vibe within
right.
her store, with things being made out of what it wasn't plywood, it was like pine and stuff like that. And she created her shelving, so everything was quite rustic and whatnot, right? But if you look at the brands of some of the stuff that she's selling, it
They are
wouldn't go
very
very
much
well within a
fun.
store like
Yeah,
that, because
there's
she's
no
now selling
marriage.
all of these sorts of high-end sorts of alcohol beverages that
Yeah.
does marketing that is very hyped.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Mm,
they're marketing all of the alcoholic beverages in this high hyped party setting within clubs and whatnot. And that's what you're seeing on TV. But then you're walking into a store to find it on like this farmhouse or
mm,
barn shelf. I, I don't really get that. Yeah. So what we did for her is to make things a bit more modern by redesigning her space to be
okay.
a bit more of a premium environment, but not really with the cottage core look to her store. Yeah. So we went a bit more industrial, and I brought in all of these reclaimed or reused scaffolding that they were using to build buildings at some point or whatnot. So we bought them off of the contractors, right? Because they were going to dispose of them anyway, right? And
Yeah.
cleaned them up and got my fabricator guys at nice, because we do a lot of fabrication in my studio. I have a big
Okay.
workshop as well to the back
Nice.
of my studio with CNC cutters and all of these sorts of machinery. So I got my guys to fabricate these shelving units for her, which tends to float because they connect from the ceiling to the floor.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
So now she has these special sorts of shelving units, right? And we changed up the sorts of music she was playing in her store. We added in some more screens in there where clients could automatically scan the item and get the prices, right? Once they scan the item, and the clients are in the store and whatnot, when they go to the till, you don't have much work to do because the scanned items were already scanned for you to find out your prices or what you want to find out about it. They would have had that logged on their machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a company that helps me out a lot with technology, and that sort of checkout process is a company who I consulted with in the past, and now I tend to lean on them a lot for tech. And believe it or not, it's not a UK based company.
Okay.
They're based, they're based in Tanzania, and the name of the company is called Setlo, right?
Okay. Nice.
Now, those guys from Setlo, um, they do jobs for us. It's quite affordable for us. Well, of course, you could understand that because of the conversion rate and whatnot, but they are very, very reliable, and I love their tech.
Okay.
So once I walk into a store and I envision something, and I pretty much call them up on Zoom and tell them this is what I want, their developers get it
They
to
make
us
it
within a week.
happen. Nice.
Yeah, yeah. So the developers get it to us within a week, and they built that system where you could
Okay.
scan from the shelves and would automatically be logged here, right?
Mm,
So you have a lot of stuff at play because you have the camera systems that's fitted throughout the entire store, like a grid, as you would
mm,
see within a lot of retail stores. So you have the cameras, so we're seeing you, so we know you are this client because we're seeing you, and we know that these items are connected to you, and this is what you have in your basket because this is what you scanned on the shelf. These are the prices of the items you have. Of course, we're going to look over it before we allow you to walk out the store, and payment all happens effortlessly. You tap your card,
right.
you leave. Yeah. So that's what we did for her. So that's where we implemented technology to make her experience a bit easier. But we worked on the lighting in her store. We did over the pretty much everything in her interior to get her to look like, you know, what she would want to be. The only thing I left behind was her nice wooden flooring because I love that. She had these nice raw oak, not treated flooring, So we did that and we pretty much worked over it. So keep in mind, the technology is there to complement the experience. You shouldn't make it the entire experience. Remember that we're dealing with so much of tech companies every day. Everything is in front of our faces through our computers and our phones, right? You don't want to flood a client with that when
Yeah.
they go into a retail space, right? When
Right.
they come into that retail space, we must try to get them to escape some of that by interacting with people, product, yeah, probably
Nice.
some of your signage as well, you would take into consideration there.
Mm, mm. Interesting. Thank you for elaborating on that. John-Marc, as we come towards the end of this beautiful exchange, I have a last question for you. As a spatial experience designer, you're at the forefront of shaping how people engage with their surroundings. Like looking ahead, how do you envision the evolution of spatial design, especially considering all of these rapid enhancements and advancements in technology and the changing expectations of the experience hungry audiences or consumers?
So my perspective of that, a lot of professionals would consider to be a bit obscure.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm.
Um, I believe spatial design is going to come right back to elements within the space that is going to be a bit more minimalistic in light of the tech, because we have everything to do with tech. We're going to try to escape some of it. Mind you, behind the scenes, the tech is going to be at work, right?
Mm,
You know, Amazon Alexa in a store or a voice assistant in a store, right, isn't going to take away from the experience, it's going to add to the experience, right? But all of these wild visuals that we want to put up on screens and through holograms and whatnot, we ought to be very careful with that, because cognitive load, you're going to overstimulate the clients, right? They're going to be tired and drawn before they leave the store. They're going to try to get out of there a bit quicker. Yeah. And that we wouldn't really want to do. And unfortunately, right now, you have some guys within retail design. Everything is about the tech. They're throwing as much screens as they could throw in there, as much of those hologram devices that spins like a fan on the wall. Have you seen those?
yes.
Right? Well, now those things are quite common. So you're seeing these things popping up in all sorts of spaces, right? Not just stores, but any sort of commercial environments and whatnot. And it's a bit much. It's a
Mm, yeah.
bit much. So
Mm,
I
yeah.
think eventually, right? Eventually, people are going to want to escape that a bit, and they're going to want to go back to a space where they could be all calm and interact with other people and a little less technology. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to come
Yes.
and interact with your product and whatnot, right? I
Yeah.
mean, technology don't solve every problem. I mean, when we think about luxury right now, let's talk about my shopping habits. So I like suits, and when I go out to work, I dress well, right?
Mm, mm.
I think every spatial designer, every interior designer is a closeted fashion designer. We love the way we dress, right? So whilst I'm looking like this at home now, when I go out, I try to look decent. Yeah. And the people who makes my suits and why my suits would be considered to be very expensive is because they're made they're, they're not by a factory,
Mm.
but by folks who tailor me, right?
Right.
Now, when I go there and I walk into their little shop and I'm being measured and stuff like that, it's a bit inconvenient sometimes. right? And then I have to wait 3 weeks before I get my suit,
Perfect.
right?
Yeah. Mm.
So it could be a bit inconvenient from that perspective. But when
Mm.
I put this on, that inconvenience is all gone because what I get and the fit that I get, I can't get it from something that's factory made and sitting on a shelf
Yeah.
there waiting
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
So where I would spend £3,000 on a suit to have it tailored to me, right? I could very well walk into any of those other stores anymore and get it for like 250. Yeah, but I wouldn't really do that because the fit, right? The quality and what you're getting, that's what you're really, really, really paying for. Yeah. And that's what I try to tell some of my clients sometimes as well with when you're selecting stuff for your interior environment, whether it's residential or commercial, right? Um, Sometimes an interior designer are going to lean on the more expensive part. So when they give you this list of items or objects that we're going to buy to design the space, it's going to be a hefty bill sometimes, right? But you see, the thing is, we pay for craftsmanship. Yeah, that
Yes, of course.
you don't just get that,
Mm.
right, off of
With
these you
of the
know,
rec items. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Of course.
exactly, right? So because of that, it's always going to bring you back to that human experience.
Mm.
Because if my tailor, if she's not measuring me properly and doing what she has to do and whatnot, then it's best I go pay 250 at the regular store anymore.
Right. I think we had a little freeze, John-Marc. We're trying to reconnect maybe with John-Marc in a few. I think we had a screen freeze. I believe that we can wrap up this episode by looking at the importance of design and the importance of setting the design into the brand's identity. Today, we need not to think of excessive design just for the sake of designing. It has to be relevant to the brand and to customers within the context of the space. And I believe that an important idea was shared today with John-Marc, and it's regarding the importance of technology as being an element that complements the retail experience, and we have to avoid adding just or throwing in any design element, not to have this cognitive overload as John-Marc has referred to it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I believe that we're going to be reconnecting with John to share more experiences and more insights on projects he has worked on. Thank you so much, John, for joining in and for this beautiful exchange. And I will be seeing you all in the upcoming Re-Retail podcast with me. And I hope that this topic has been interesting enough for you. See you soon.